we understand that not everyone is going to be a fit for our agency.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if they reached out to us, they reached out to us for a reason. And it could have been a referral. It could have been that they found reviews online. And so we don't want to just like leave that person cold, like with no options. Because sometimes people are in a pinch, right? Is like a person comes to me with a few claims. I can't help them, but I still...
You can't just throw them out like garbage. You're like, how do I point them in the right direction to still get help? It's just not going to be through my company.
Yep.
Welcome to the podcast dedicated to real estate, insurance, and building your business. Join us as we take you along our own business building journeys with additional wisdom from our network of local and national experts. Welcome to Bricks and Risk. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Bricks and Risk. I'm Timmy Garrity.
And I'm Sean Mooney.
What about Shawnee Mooney?
No, Moonee.
Did anyone ever call you Shawnee growing up? That's like a real Philly thing.
No, but my one boss would always sing this song when I'd come in the room.
What would you say?
All along the Shawnee River.
Whoa, I like that.
Yeah.
That's some good Irish shit right there.
Yeah.
All right, man. What are we talking about?
Today we're talking about firing clients.
Nice. You mean when to say no.
When to say no.
Which we've talked about, the infamous Mooney Insurance Brokers deadbolt.
Yeah. 6 deadbolts.
Even though you're on a main thoroughfare in Ambler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, kind of weird, isn't it?
I mean, I get it. We're really going to get into it today, so I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
All right.
So let's get into it, man. Here's a good question. Why would you say no to a client?
Oh, that's easy.
Okay, tell me.
From my perspective. It's when to say no to a client is easy for us because we really have it dialed in as to who our ideal clients are.
Kind of like you have a mold.
Yep.
That's what you're looking for.
Yep. It's like people actually call it like your customer avatar.
Okay. I like that.
So you're creating a profile of that person or people or whatever client you're looking for. And it's a mold or a template that kind of either fits or it doesn't fit.
Give me like a real like current time frame of what does that mold look like for you? So if you're going to say yes to a client, like what would be like the ideal client for you today? What's the avatar?
So today would be we do it by lines.
Okay.
So lines of insurance. So a person that came to us is like, hey, I have a car and I rent an apartment, right? And I want you to quote the car, but I don't want anything else.
Okay. So
it's like one line of business with like a premium amount of whatever.
Yep.
And that client wouldn't be someone that we would necessarily target.
Yep.
So in that initial survey, we have them fill out some preliminary information to gather all of the detail, is we would have an understanding of that, right? They tell us what they want, right? In that preliminary questionnaire.
Uh-huh.
And then we analyze it and we say, okay, this is someone that we want to work with, or it's not a good fit for our agency.
Got it.
And it can be, and I'm using that as one example.
Sure, it's just one.
As like these lines of insurance, but it can be more. It can be, that someone comes to us with, 3 claims in the last 5 years. And it's like, we know that we're going to be very limited on the ability to help that person.
Yep.
So rather than like spin our wheels, and especially if they're looking for something quick, like we know how much time we're going to have to invest in that, potential client.
Yep.
And so it's really trying to meet their what they're looking for? And then like, is it worth our time? And do they meet kind of our criteria as to who the preferred candidate would be?
Got it.
So
That makes sense.
how about you? What's
For me in real estate, I'd say probably the number one thing I look for and I kind of screen for right away is a client. So I do buying, selling, and leasing. So it just depends on the situation, whether or not it's going to be me handling it, which most times it is, or maybe someone on my team, depending on the location, the amount of service needed. But the one thing I really look for is someone looking to build a relationship with an agent. And it's very easy for me to see if someone just, let's say they called or emailed and say, hey, I want to go see these 5 homes and I have no idea who they are, where they came from. They give me nothing else. I know they're just looking to go out and browse with anyone and everyone that gives them the time. They could have sent that email to
so
5
it's
people.
very similar to me. I mean, given that scenario, how much time on your end is going to be invested with this client, which may or may not work out.
Yeah, and I think one of those things up front, which is very interesting, and some agents look at it this way and some don't, but it's also being respectful of each other's time.
Definitely.
Because if someone reaches out to me like this morning and says, hey, I want to see something early afternoon, they have zero respect for my time. And I'm a pretty busy guy, not only in business, but with my family. So therefore, most of my stuff is at least 24 hours out, if not more.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's like, again, there's not one perfect home for everyone out there. There's many, many, many opportunities. It's a matter of figuring out what you want and then finding the way to get that. And that's really what a good agent will do. That's where the relationship comes in.
And what does that process look like for you when you're evaluating the potential client?
I mean, most of my stuff comes in warm. For the stuff that comes in warm, I still always want to schedule a buyer consultation or a listing presentation if it's a seller.
Right.
It's rare that I get a tenant and say, can you help me find a rental and I need some additional work? But I do get the people, and you've asked me this before, if someone has one property to rent, would you help them with that? And the answer is yes, but it would have to depend on the relationship. If it's someone I've never met, they didn't come through someone in my network, I got 123 Main Street, can you help me lease it? I'd probably first see if someone on my team is interested in servicing that client, knowing how it came in. But if it's someone in my network and say, hey, I've had this rental property for 5 years and I've always rented it myself. Can you help me rent it this time? Because my time is short. I want to get more rent. I don't want to do as much work. Like whatever it is, like that is more of an opportunity for me to be like, step in, build the relationship through that rental. And again, that's going to turn into more stuff down the road.
Have you ever come across a scenario where you thought someone didn't fit and maybe down the road you were like, oh man, I missed out on that opportunity?
I've had a few instances where I've gotten a little emotional about working through situations with clients.
Like you were crying?
Not like that.
Yeah.
But basically, to the point where like I'm heated.
Yeah.
And because it's almost like they almost don't have any manners. And you and I were raised with manners.
With manners.
We went through the Catholic school system.
Boys will be boys, but LaSalle boys will be gentlemen.
Oh my gosh. Anyway.
True story.
I love it. So for me, it's like, there's maybe been a few instances where maybe I've overreacted, but I'll be honest.
Wait. So what did tell us that incident. You got to go through where I want to hear you overreacting.
Sure. There was one instance where I knew some people, they were buying a home. I have a transaction coordinator. We're working through the entire transaction. And about a week before closing, they said, we're not going to pay for your transaction fee because we feel it's our right to negotiate that out of the deal. And I said, I understand that.
Were they part of the NAR settlement?
They were not, because this is years ago. And these were people I knew. And I said, I'll be honest with you. If you told me this in the beginning, I probably would have waived it or worked something out with my transaction coordinator, knowing that you either didn't want that level of service or that you had a problem with that fee. But we're at the 5-yard line. And to say I've gotten all that service and all that benefit, and now I don't want to pay for it because it's my right to negotiate that really hit me the wrong way, because I feel like now you're not taking care of my people because you feel like it's your right to be frugal. Hey, it's everyone's right to be frugal. Yeah. But when that happened, that it was like I got into like protection mode for my transaction coordinator, and I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to eat your transaction fee, and we're never going to work together again. And we're going to finish this. I'm going to finish this transaction out. It's going to be very professional. But we're never going to work together again. And they had another place to sell, a big sale that I was going to list for them. And you know what? On principle, I said, I'm not interested. And I didn't want to do it again. So I really laid down the gauntlet of my principles for how you handled this are completely different from yours, and therefore not a good fit.
What was their response? Like, cause so they think they're within the lines, like this is totally normal, and we don't want to pay this, so you're going to make this go away.
Yep.
And then, but they know that they have this house to sell, and then you say, I don't want to bother. Like, what was that response when you told them that?
I think they were just pleased that I waived the fee, which basically meant they didn't care whether they worked with me or not. I think it was, circumstance that put us together in that deal, and that as soon as they tried to get one over on me and my company, I wasn't having it.
So for them, it was like a win. Like we got the better.
We got this for less. We didn't have to pay this fee, and they didn't. I still waived it.
Yeah.
And I probably walked away from maybe a $10,000, $12,000 commission on the next property.
Yeah.
Which some people would be like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, I'm not, because that's not someone I wanted to keep working with.
Well, the other thing too is if they acted that way on this property,
right,
you got to imagine that there would have been some sort of, some sort of action on the second one. They would have been squirrely. They would have been playing games.
Well, it goes back to the foundation of this, when to say no. If you always say yes, you're going to get beaten and bullied around. Yeah. Now, again, if it's about dollars, get beaten and bullied around if that's the way you want to do it. If it's about relationships and finding that good fit for you and your company, the one that appreciates that service, how you're set up, and then again, having that relationship for decades to come, they can recommend me to all their friends and family and be like, Tim's the man. He's the best real estate agent I've ever worked with. And that happens. The ones where it's, you have to say no, I don't want recommendations from them, because as you have said before, someone who comes in with a not so great track record to get insurance is probably going to recommend people that also function the same way. And that's not how you want to roll.
Birds of a feather. Talk about how long you were in, because I imagine this didn't happen in your first year of being a realtor.
Was actually, that particular instance was probably about 4 years ago. So I was about 11 years in.
Okay.
There's one instance that I remember. It was probably like my third year in real estate, and I had an investor client who had already done a transaction with, and it was very, very difficult to get done. But I'm new. It's my third year. Again, I did one sale in my first year in real estate, maybe a handful in my second year. So my third year, I started to hit my stride. I'm doing multiple sales. I'm working with different clients.
Yeah.
I know my stuff. I got my process down. And I did this one sale with them, and it was kind of a nightmare. One of the unspoken things in real estate is that if you help an investor client buy a property, you're coaching them on hey, once you fix this up, if you do it this way, it's probably going to be worth Y, and then I'll list it for you and we'll get Y. It's unspoken that if you help them acquire it, they're probably going to work with you on the back end to list it. So that particular, you would think. That particular property, I helped them buy it, put in a ton of time, ton of effort, and they ended up doing a private deal to get it sold, which I didn't fault them for, because I'm like, man, if they got an interested buyer on their own and they want to go to an attorney to handle the paperwork, I'm fine with that.
Like a brother or cousin or something. Hey, got this house. Okay, here you go.
I don't need to be involved.
Right.
But then as we started looking for the second investment property, it was like a complete nightmare. They were working with multiple agents. They were pinning me against other people. They're like, hey, Bill took me out the other day, or Sally took me out the other day. This is what they said. And I said, here's how we're going to handle this. I just don't think this is a good fit. And again, kind of a little heated. What do you mean? We've been doing business together. And I said, I know we have, but it's made me realize at this point, just not a good fit. I don't think it's a good fit for you, and it's definitely not a good fit for me. So I'm just going to let you go work with that other agent or other agents you've been talking to, and I think they're going to service your needs better. Hey everyone, this is Tim, your favorite Bricks and Risk co-host. But don't tell Sean. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and I'll get right back to it in a moment. Our audience grows through word of mouth, so if you would please take a moment of your time and give us a review on the platform you're on, that would be fantastic. Please also help spread the B&R word by sharing your favorite episode with a friend. We greatly appreciate your time and trust. Now, back to the show.
Very similar with us. So part of the survey that we have initially for like a business account or commercial insurance is we really want to size up where we are in the depth chart. So like one of the first questions is, all right, where are you in the process?
Okay.
Right. So we want to know like, all right, if you already sent this out to 2 other brokers, I don't want it.
Right.
Like, you know,
you're not into that game.
They say like 80% of the business will go to the first person in, right?
Right.
So you only have a 20% chance if you're the second person in, now from the third. It's like, you know what? I my time is better spent working with someone else.
Absolutely.
So in addition to that is like commercial insurance too, is like the commercial carriers, they actually block you out and won't allow, because it takes time. I mean, business insurance, there's a lot of...
Yeah, it's way more than just getting a quote on your car.
Right. So carrier X isn't going to take the time to work up 6 different proposals for 6 different... it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so that makes it a little bit easier because we're already like, hey, who did you get terms from? Where do things stand? What's the timeline? You know, to try to size it up. And that does make it a little easier for us to know, you know, how invested are they in us?
Yeah.
Having a relationship with us, or are they just out there, you know,
just pinning one person against the other, as I put it.
I just got an email this morning from a person that reached out that, you know, must send the same email out every single year.
It's a copy paste.
Yeah. Here's my new policies, get quotes.
Right.
And I'm like,
I got email templates to get quotes on insurance.
It almost looks like an AI bot like did it for them.
Right. They went into ChatGPT. They're like, give me a good email.
Yeah.
That says, how do I get a quote from Mooney Insurance Brokers?
And
they're like, who's Mooney Insurance Brokers?
What did I talk to you? Who?
They're like, that sounds made up.
Yeah. So we get a lot of those that people, they don't want to do the work. They don't want to call. They don't want to go through. They just want to send some stuff out and have you do all the work. And, you know, if you come back with it's
about dollars and cents. Like, if you beat it by like $2, what's to say, 6 months from now, they wouldn't find someone else who can beat it by $5 a month. Yeah. And it's just a vicious cycle of like, they're never going to want to stay with me anyway and value what I have to offer, which is a relationship focused business model for insurance.
Especially now. So it's like cost of insurance and the price of insurance. The prices is like what you pay for your premiums. The cost of insurance is like everything.
Exactly.
Right. And so right now with the carriers, taking rate and being super restrictive on what they're willing to write is like, we have to consult with our clients, right? We have to consult with them on the front end because we want to like ensure that they have the proper coverage, that, they're maximizing all of their discounts and setting themselves up to be in a good position, for next year as well.
Right.
And so again, that's time we want to like work with them, and have that relationship and build that trust so that when we say, you have damage on your vehicle, like you might not want to put that claim through insurance because ultimately you're going to shoot yourself in the foot.
Right.
And when it renews, you're going to be scrambling and in a much worse position than had you had gone this route.
You're advising them, again, fitting the mold, of Mooney Insurance Brokers. You advise them, here's how you keep your insurance.
Yeah.
Not like, here's how I save you the most money, or here's how, you're getting like bundled insurance, like whatever it is that they're looking for.
Yep.
You're basically telling them, like, one of the risks today is losing your insurance and not being able to find another insurance company that will, support you and protect you moving forward. And we've talked about this because I give you clients all the time.
Yep.
We had a little water issue in our house recently, and it was kind of the same advice. You're like, look, that is so minor, and people in construction, you're better off to just go get that done, spend the money, and not put a claim into this. Because again, what does it cost? Here's what your deductible is. Like, how good is it really going to get? And then guess what? Your bill's probably going to go up.
Yep.
So that costs money.
Yep.
And/or they just don't want to be your carrier anymore.
Yep.
Which is insane. And that's, if I could take it one step further, like on my end, if someone's buying a big ticket item, which again, $500,000 home, that's a big ticket item.
Yeah.
Is really letting them know lots of things up front. Like when someone's like trying to make an offer in today's world, especially if it's in like the inner suburbs, there's multiple offers on almost everything.
How about Maple Glen? Is that a hot market right now?
Super chilly, bro. I mean, you can buy whatever you want there.
Whew.
But like literally,
Name
like
your price
up front, like let's say for whatever reason, it's starting to happen in this market where we're the one and only offer.
Yep.
And they just want to gouge them. They're like, okay, they're listed at 500. Let's go in at 450. I'm like, that's not how you get a deal done. Here's what we do. Maybe we come around like 485, 490. So you save 10 or 15 grand off the price, which is a lot.
Which is probably like, that's the funny thing. You're willing to spend $525 over here, but now you want $450.
Exactly. And then I also like, that's fair because I think if we get 10 or 15 off now, I still think we have leverage when we inspect it because we're the only game in town, maybe get another 5. So save some of your ammo. Like, don't go all in up front and try and gouge someone because that is how the experience is going to go.
It could turn sour real quick.
You have to find a way to compromise in real estate, just like you would in insurance.
Yep.
It's just a different set of circumstances.
I think the way that I go about it, and I have this conversation and I have it all the time with our clients or prospects or whoever it may be, is my response. So if they call and say, hey, I was pulling out of a parking garage and scraped the side of my car. The way that I approach it, and I think from my perspective, totally unbiased, is I tell them,
you're like, if I'm talking about my business, I'll be completely unbiased.
Yeah. But I tell them, I say, if this were me, right?
Yeah, it's a really good way to put it.
So I tell them, if I'm you, you can do what you want. Like, I'm not telling you you have to do this or have to do that.
Right. If I scratched my car,
I'm going to tell you what I would do if I was you in this situation.
Yeah.
And I think that lets people understand that you're not trying to push them.
Yeah. You're not trying to sell them.
No. At the end of the day, all I want is what's best for my client.
Yep.
Similar to you. If they're in this house and they want to go $50K low,
yep,
you probably wouldn't do that if it were you.
Exactly.
And you probably have seen deals go south
totally
because of that.
Yep.
Like not even counter.
Yeah. Recently, so I sent out the monthly or the quarterly magazine through Reminder Media. Luke Akery, what's up, man?
Luke.
And so recently when I had to shift my career and I had to, branch off from my partnership and start a team on my own, one of the things I have on the backside of the magazine is some of the stats I've been involved in. And pretty much from me being a solo agent to running my previous brokerage, it's like almost $400 million in real estate has crossed my desk. And when I was putting that down, I was like, man, I've looked at a lot of deals.
Yeah.
And I've been through a lot of nonsense to even say that I've done that much. But to your point, it really is. You don't really learn these things until you get burned.
Yeah.
And being open to everything up front, I think is the best way to be, because then you start to figure out which way you want to do it. Because if you're more transactional, you're never going to say no. It's always yes.
Yeah.
if you're thinking more long-term, more strategically, relationship-based, however you want to look at it, that is criteria for getting good at it. Not everything is a yes. Sometimes you either have to stand up for yourself or your business, or you also just have to stand up for the fact that even if I did this with you, I don't think it's going to go well. So you have to be willing to kind of just, unfortunately, pass off on the commission and just say, I think you should go with someone else. And that's helping them out too.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I'm going to go abuse someone else. And that's what they want to do. And someone else is going to say yes. And that's a win-win for them.
We have, and I said this before on the show, is like, we understand that not everyone is going to be a fit for our agency.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if they reached out to us, they reached out to us for a reason. And it could have been a referral. It could have been that they found reviews online. And so we don't want to just like leave that person cold, like with no options. Because sometimes people are in a pinch, right? Is like, that person comes to me with a few claims. I can't help them, but I still...
You can't just throw them out like garbage. You're like, how do I point them in the right direction to still get help? It's just not going to be through my company.
Yep. And so what we do is try to at least offer them some option, a different place to go.
Craigslist?
Not Craigslist. No, I don't think that would be a good avenue. Quora. If they had specific questions about their insurance, they could look at Quora. But there's different agents that we have in our network. We had a client moving in Indianapolis. Can you write them? No, we can't help you. But then we were able to reach out to a partner agent.
I know someone in that area.
We did that.
Cool.
There was another commercial client that their agent recently retired. And I said, when's it renew? And they're like, in 3 weeks. And I'm like, there's nothing that you can get done in 3 weeks that,
Right.
So I said, just stay where you're at. We're happy to help you down the road, that sort of thing. And she appreciated it. She's like, well, thank you so much. Like, I can't even get John to get back to me, with an answer or response. I said, just renew and just give yourself enough time next year that you can put everything together.
Very cool.
And then the people with the accidents and stuff like that, we have different outlets that we'll kind of share with them as like, we know you can get coverage with these people and, send them that way.
Awesome, man. Well, that's all we have for this one, folks. So thank you for tuning in again to another episode of Bricks and Risk. See you soon. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Bricks and Risk. Our goal is that you walk away with 1 or 2 valuable nuggets, and we greatly appreciate you sharing your time with us today. You can find all BNR episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcast content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.